Hi, my name's Sarah Myers. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Ania, Scanlon, and Sirignano. Welcome to our next installment of our twice a month Facebook Live programs, talking to you about topics regarding aging and elder law. Today, we're going to be talking about caring for your aging parents. And we're not going to really just be talking about physically taking care of them, acting as a home attendant, bringing them to doctors, but what it really entails in a holistic approach in terms of caring for them, in terms of finances, health care, as well as end of life decisions. First, we're going to talk about the aging parents and their finances, right? Because sometimes a parent or a loved one who's older needs assistance with bill paying, going to the bank, interfacing with their financial planners, financial advisors, helping them file tax returns and the like. And it's so important to make sure when we talk to our aging parent that we really make talk to them about the importance of estate planning and having a power of attorney. As we've talked about in the prior weeks, a power of attorney is a document that says if you're unable to handle your financial affairs, you're appointing someone to do that for you. And it could be a child, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, a significant other, someone a person trusts to be able to make financial decisions for them. Early on in one of our Facebook live programs, I spoke about talking to your children who are over the age of 18, college and post college, about the importance for them to have a power of attorney in case someone needs to handle their financial affairs if they're unable to do so. The same with our aging parents and loved ones. It's important to have mechanisms in place, estate planning wise, if a person is unable to handle their financial affairs, but it really goes beyond their estate planning. And as we know when we've discussed, the estate planning is so important, but it's so important to also know where the loved one, where the person's important documents are. For example, is there a file cabinet with a list of all their various retirement bank account and life insurance policies with contact information, account numbers, financial institutions? What about where the person keeps all the passwords to any online accounts, uh, bank accounts online, social media accounts online, in order to, God forbid, the person can't access them, where to find that information? And again, the person, our loved one, doesn't have to give us all the information, and that's not really what the conversation is. It's really, have you made plans to make sure someone's available to handle your financial affairs if you're not able to do so, right? The importance of a power of attorney, but also where, please, make sure that all of that information is in one place, where all the finances are, so that if the person has to start handling the financial affairs or, God forbid, upon your passing, everything is in order for that individual to make things easier. Again, and as we've discussed in the past, especially during a time of crisis and uncertainty, it's so good and so helpful to have your finances in order, your estate planning in order, to give that stability and during a time of uncertainty, to make sure your financial affairs, you're dictating how you want, where they are, and who you want to handle them, both in lifetime and upon passing, and during a lifetime if you're not able to do so. And again, it's always very difficult to have these conversations with parents and loved ones because no one wants to give up control. No one wants to say, look, I can't handle these matters anymore. And frankly, parents or loved ones don't want others to know what their assets are, right? Do they have a lot of money, not a lot of money? It's something that was never discussed, while raising the kids or when the kids were older. And a lot of parents and loved ones don't want to relinquish control or to have their family members know what their assets are. They're afraid of a power grab, someone trying to take money or manipulate, or just in terms of imposing any kind of control. But again, it's so important to at least that somebody knows where these important documents are, where to find important documents. So when the time comes that a person no longer has capacity, or when a person passes, somebody becomes the go-to. Somebody knows again where all this information can be had. And that goes along the lines with healthcare too. Again, a person wants, if he or she is able, wants to make medical decisions for him or herself. However, should there come a time where a person can't do that, it's so important to have the conversation with the parent or loved one about having a healthcare proxy, a document that says if I'm unable to make my medical decisions, I'm appointing somebody to do that for me. And why is that so important? Because that way people know who's in charge of making those medical decisions when a parent or loved one is unable to do so. Instead of, doctors don't want to have to talk to two, three, four, or five family members. Doctors and medical providers can't get their jobs done when they're being bombarded with questions and don't know who to take direction from. So it's so important to have that healthcare proxy. Not only that is it appointing someone to make those medical decisions, but it's letting everybody know that's the person who's making those decisions for you. So there's no uncertainty in terms of those decisions being made. And healthcare also, yes, has to do with home attendant and home care. So a person making healthcare decisions for you, but planning on and caring for your aging parents might not just be making those financial decisions or knowing where the account information is or helping with bill paying or talking to doctors, but it also might be having your planning to make sure there's someone to take mom or dad or a loved one to the doctor, to help fill prescriptions, to coordinate, filling a once a week or once a month pill box if the parent or loved one is unable to do so. And yes, there's also there's a time where a child or other family member or loved one wants to be that individual's home attendant and possibly be paid for that care. And we've talked in the past about Medicaid having a program called consumer directed care, wherein when the person is on Medicaid and having home care services, a family friend, a family member other than a spouse can be the home attendant for that individual and be paid by Medicaid to provide that care. But really, that care is so much more than physically attending to the person's needs, but really also again making those medical decisions, making those financial decisions, and again caring for parents when they don't need help, when they have capacity, they're independent with being able to take care of themselves. But it's so important, and I use the term caring rather loosely because it's also having those hard conversations with parents and loved ones about making sure they've planned for incapacity. And nobody wants to talk about incapacity. No one wants to say, look, there might come a time where I'm unable to handle my financial or medical affairs. But it's so important to anticipate and to plan because my partner Anthony, loves my Yiddish expression, man plans, God laughs, because we don't know what's going to happen. Who knew, back in January, February, March that we'd be in the middle of a pandemic. So again, during these times of uncertainty, but really at all times, it's so important to make sure that we have our planning in order and not necessarily for now, but again, for the future. And part of caring for a parent, again, as we use the term caring loosely, is really making sure that our parents, our loved ones have taken steps to really make sure that their financial and medical needs are in place, are taken care of. So if they should have those needs in the future, they've appointed someone or individuals to make those financial decisions, those medical decisions. And so those agents aren't, running around, as a chicken with a chicken, like a chicken without a head, um, in terms of having to even find out who mom's doctors are, find out where dad's bank accounts are or their loved ones, retirement accounts are housed in which financial institution. So it's so important to really be in lockstep and make sure that there's that important folder, important cabinet drawer where all of the person's financial information is laid out, medical information is laid out, passwords, and not the whole family, not everybody needs to know, but someone should know, in case there comes that time where affairs need to be handled for that individual. And I also think it's so important in terms of caring for a loved one is knowing what those loved ones' wishes are vis-a-vis health care. If they're diagnosed with a terminal illness, what kind of treatment do they want or do they not want? Would they want surgery? Would they want chemotherapy? Would they want aggressive measures taken? And while our loved ones have the ability to talk to us about them, it's so important to be starting those conversations and really taking into consideration and really, making it easier for family and friends to know what those wishes are, to have that open dialogue and to really start that open dialogue. Do you want to, if God forbid you should need care? Is your preference home care or nursing home care or assisted living? And again, the best way we can take care of our parents, our loved ones, is by knowing what their wishes are. And in terms of wishes, I think it's important to discuss end of life wishes as well. There's a document called a living will, which is an evidence, which is what a person has if they wish to not have heroic measures if the person is in a vegetative or comatose state with no chance of recovery. I say it's really evidence to the loved ones, to the children, to the family and friends of what your end of life wishes are, right? If dad does not want to be on a ventilator and intubated, or does not want cardiac, CPR, if the person is in a vegetative or comatose state, I think it really gives the family members, friends, loved ones, the permission to not have the doctors do heroic measures, to really for that peace of mind that they're not making end of life decisions, but they've really already been made by the individual, by the principal, because he or she has already stated what his or her end of life wishes are. And that decision has already been made. So again, it's not putting a family member, a child, a spouse in the position of having to make those end of life decisions. And look, I know these are very touchy topics, and always one of the questions is, well, how do we broach the issue with mom and dad? And I say it like a grown up, right? Our parents, our elders always treat us like the kids we were when we were teenagers or younger. They don't see us as professionals, as grown ups in our own right, but it's our responsibility to really talk to our parents, our elders, our significant others, families, and whatnot, in terms of really making sure affairs are in order. And again, those affairs may be different in their 70s, their 80s, and their 90s, but really taking control to say, hey, thank God you're still living and this has been a great life you've had, or there have been some struggles, or however it should be couched. But again, in order to have certainty and to have clarity now and to have really ease of management now, it's so important to make sure that your affairs are in order, your financial affairs, and also appointing individuals to make decisions for you, either upon, if you become incapacitated, and making sure those affairs are in order and how you want your assets to go upon your passing, that those things, those matters are really codified, that you've done your estate planning. And really, what about your medical decisions? Appoint someone to make those medical decisions if you're unable to do so. And it's really, talking to parents as our peers, which, parents, loved ones don't always like to acknowledge that, and say, hey, let's take control of these things now. That way you are still the parent, you're still the elder, but really taking control and letting us know what your decisions are vis-a-vis your financial affairs, your medical affairs, your end of life wishes. Because the more control, the more planning a person has done, the more control that person has. It makes it easier for the children, the loved ones, the family, and the friends to know what to do, and how to react when a person loses capacity or when a person passes. So I think the takeaway from today is when we're caring for our elders, we're caring for our aging parents, it's not just the physically caring for them, but part of the caring is really having those difficult conversations. What have you done financial planning wise? Have you done your estate planning? Is there a power of attorney? um, where are your finances housed? Do you have a sheet of your password, a list of all your assets, the name of the institutions, the name of any financial advisors? Again, you don't have to show anything now, but really let us know where it is so we can then take care of things when things need to be financial matters need to be taken care of. And the same way in terms of your medical decisions. Do you have somebody? Do you have a healthcare proxy that the doctors know they can speak with if you're unable to communicate with the doctors or unable to make medical decisions? You discuss what end of life wishes are, because again, the more upfront and honest these conversations are, the less stressful it'll be if and when there should come a time where an older parent or an older loved one passes or becomes incapacitated. So often we'll have clients come to the office or set up a Zoom meeting now with us in a panic because their parent, their loved one was in the hospital in a nursing home, and they don't know what to do, and they don't even know where any of the assets are. And again, it's taking those simple steps of organizing the assets, having a list of them, having that special file cabinet or drawer for those times of incapacity or emergency makes things so much easier for those taking care of you, both physically or financially, or making those decisions for you. And again, these conversations aren't easy, but they can be productive as well, because it can lead to doing financial planning, discussing the importance of estate planning, right? If mom and dad haven't done their planning, part of that conversation and caring for them is having them go speak to their elder law attorney, their trust and estates attorney, about their estate planning, about having their advance directives, the power of attorney and the healthcare proxy, about doing Medicaid planning, perhaps taking a house and transferring it into a Medicaid asset protection trust, or if they're seeking to avoid probate, uh, creating revocable trusts and titling assets to revocable trusts to avoid the probate process. But again, it's so important to have these conversations because it leads to making sure that our parents have done their estate planning, they've done their Medicaid planning, they have their advance directives, and they've taken control. Or perhaps in having this conversation with a parent, they might open up and say, well, look, they're actually having a really hard time bathing because it's very hard to get in and out of the shower, or they're feeling a little bit off balance. So perhaps then it comes the time to really talk to them about getting some care in place, looking to Medicaid to do Medicaid to pay for Medicaid home care to pay for home care for them, or to even start and say, hey, look, your memory might be slipping a little bit, perhaps we should do some Medicaid planning, in case we need Medicaid to pay for long-term care in the future. So it's always so important to start these conversations, and don't assume after that first conversation your parents or older loved ones are going to run off and do their planning, are going to full disclosure on what their assets are and where their important documents are. But again, it's so important to start the conversation because these conversations should to be had regularly. And when we start those conversations, it's then so important, it then becomes a continuing dialogue. And our older family members, our elders, our parents will then start becoming more amenable to opening up and recognizing that it's so important to be doing their planning, but also to let somebody know again where the important information is housed should there come a time when that information is needed. So we always recommend start the conversation, let the parents acknowledge that you are grown-ups as well, and that you're doing this to help them, be the parent and, to make things easier for you. Again, should there come a time where they're unable to handle their financial affairs, their medical affairs, and allowing you to give back to them and start taking care of them. I hope you enjoyed this week's program from Ania Scanlon and Sirignano, Caring for Your Aging Parents. Again, we look at the aging process and the elder law and trust and estate planning process as a holistic approach. Feel free to contact us at esslawfirm.com. Feel free to give me a call. Again, my name is Sarah Myers. I'm a member of the firm. Our phone number is 914-948-1500, or I can be reached by email at s.myers, S.Meyers, at esslawfirm.com. And thank you for tuning in again this week to our every other week Lunch and Learn at Elder Law Estate Planning program. It was a pleasure speaking with you again this week, and I hope to see you all again in 2 weeks. Thanks so much and have a good day.